temperatures of 6 to 9 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
England now on course to qualify for Euro 2020. They're about to bounce back from their defeat against the Czech Republic, which was their first loss in qualifying for a decade. They currently lead 4-0 away to Bulgaria. 2 goals from Ross Barkley, 1 from Marcus Rashford and 1 from Raheem Sterling. The story coming out of the game is unlikely to be England's qualification, though. It's the fact the referee had to stop the game twice due to racist chants from the home Bulgarian supporters in the first half. But the game now in the second half with England 4-0 up. Elsewhere at the moment, it's 0-0 between France and Turkey in Paris. Iceland lead Andorra by 1-0. Kosovo 2-0 up against Montenegro. Serbia 2-0 up on the road against Lithuania. It's 3-0 to Albania against Moldova. And Ukraine lead against the reigning European champions Portugal by 2-0. All those games now coming up on the hour. On the Football Show over the next hour, we are going to be crossing to Geneva very soon to join Stephen Doyle and Dan McDonnell to get the thoughts of head of the Republic of Ireland's crucial qualifier tomorrow against Switzerland, where a win would send Ireland to Euro 2020. But first, Kenny Cunningham was on this morning's OTBAM, our morning sports breakfast show. You can watch it on offtheball.com or listen on OTB Sports Radio on the Go Loud app each morning from 7:30. We'll jump in here where Ger Gilroy was speaking to Kenny and they were talking about the man of the moment, Aaron Connolly.
No, I think that's stretching it a little bit, Jared, to be honest with you. I mean, he impressed a small amount of time that he was on the pitch, and clearly he strengthened his argument for inclusion in the starting lineup Tuesday. But I think you just got to trust Mick to make the right decision. I'm sure he'll assess Aaron over the next couple of days. On a lot of different levels, I think, Jared, just in terms of like mentally where exactly he is. I was at the game now over in Georgia, and I was interested even watching Aaron walking towards the touchline, taking those 4 steps in the senior international football, and shoulders were out. The body language was good, Jay. You know, he gave a sense of, yeah, I'm ready for this. Yeah, let me on. I can make a difference here, and that was a good thing to see a lad so young. I mean, I'm trying to think back to my first cap for Ireland. There would have been the opposite emotions. I would have been feeling kind of a lot of dread and nervousness, that type of thing, you know. But it looked exactly the opposite where Aaron. He played that way when he came on. So, although I wouldn't say he has to start, my gut feeling tells me if he carries himself the next couple of days and trained the way he probably has done, and that kind of air of confidence about him, the way he spoke there, I caught the tail end of the interview, gut feeling tells me Mick will find a place for him in the starting lineup. What position, depending on the system Mick plays, we're not too sure, but I'd probably lean towards maybe a central striking position, just because we'd like to keep him as high up the pitch as possible. I think we saw that with his last opportunity. Glenn just popped the ball over the shoulder the last 2 centre-halves in a central position. I think when you play in a wide position, particularly against Switzerland during the week, we're going to get pinned back. Our wingers are going to get pinned back into almost full-back positions at times, very deep. And that one player we'll have the luxury of keeping a little bit higher up the pitch will be our kind of number 9. So if Mick does elect to choose him, and gut feeling tells me he probably will, I'd like to see him in that central striking position, because we can actually keep him a little bit higher up the pitch towards the halfway line.
Yeah, did Collins work as a striker at the weekend, or maybe, Kenny? We've had like 48 hours roughly since full time. In your assessment, what went wrong for us that we were unable to keep the ball or create chances that were in any way meaningful until the last couple of minutes of that game the weekend?
Yeah, no, I suppose you could argue we've had this conversation on a number of occasions over a number of years, Jerry, even back to when we played. So I had a little bit of sympathy for James up front. I thought his work rate was fantastic. Physically, he tried to put himself around him, around the pitch. He wasn't going to be bullied by any of the Georgian defenders, certainly, but probably not quite enough. The ball maybe stuck when it came to him. And his defence, I'd say, in terms of the quality of ball into him as well, Jared, as well. And you're right, in terms of the quality of our football, maybe through the thirds, and our ability maybe to, you know, deliver good quality ball into us, not only his feet but the wide players high up the pitch. No, it wasn't great. It was what it was. They were really feeding on scraps for the majority of the game. And even those couple of chances late on, I mean, Aaron's first chance really came about a heavy touch from a Georgian defender. It broke to him at the edge of the box, and obviously the Glenn The pass was when we're defending deep on the edge of our box, and that quick counter-attack, that ball over the top, which I think will probably be our best asset against Switzerland next Tuesday. So I wouldn't get too downbeat in terms of like analysing the game, why we're not passing the ball and bigger picture stuff. We haven't got ball. Lads who, retain possession of foot, because I don't honestly think that's going to be key in this game against Switzerland Tuesday. For me, I've no problem with us sitting a little bit deeper, but if we do get pushed back against Switzerland, which I think we will, because they're a very good side, for me it's about having the right players on the pitch who can break quickly and hurt this Swiss team, because I think if they have got weakness in their team, it's across the defensive line, because the presence of Schär there, good footballer but not the most mobile. It's Lichtensteiner plays at right back, very experienced player but can't run. So for me, get as much kind of energy, legs, kind of dynamism in the team as possible in those kind of midfield and wide areas, forward areas of the pitch, and I think we can really hurt Switzerland, particularly on counter-attacks.
Yeah, and look, I totally understand how that's exactly how we would play this game against Switzerland, but it is coming off the back of one of the most abject performances that we've seen from Ireland in a long time. That performance was of a par with anything that the bad end campaign of Trapattoni, the worst days of Martin O'Neill, and it was Georgia away when we had the opportunity to be the aggressor and to go and try and win the group. Victory in that game would have set us up very nicely for the last two games here, but instead we've handed the impetus back to our opponents, and I'm just wondering what it is that we couldn't have approached that game slightly differently.
I think I wouldn't agree with you totally there in terms of this is as bad as we've seen, not in all aspects of the game. I think probably from a creative point of view, Jerry, in terms of quality of football, maybe creating good goal scoring opportunities from our general play, there wasn't a huge amount there. I'd agree with you there. But I think in terms of maybe a little bit of kind of the organisation team, defensive organisation team for me is better. When I look at the team today, I see a few little patterns there in terms of when we're going, where we're going hunting the ball, when we're going, which is good to see. And I think defensively we were kind of sound the other night, particularly two centre-halves. I thought were absolutely great in terms of anything that came into the box. So yeah, I take your point on a bigger picture. I don't think psychologically the lads will be on a huge downer. We're doing all the permutations after the game. It looks as if one win, basically that's what we were saying, one win from the next two games if Denmark and Switzerland win their other games. And for me, this is the one, this Swiss game. I wouldn't want to be going into that Denmark game. I know it's a home game, but we all know what that's like, Jed. The pressure on the lads' shoulders, the tension around the Aviva and the must-win game, last game of the group. So for me, it's all about this game Tuesday. Actually, I think this is our best opportunity.
We are here in the bells of the Stade de Genève because they won't let us out on the pitch, because the lads, as we talk, are still training outside, getting their final preparations ready for tomorrow night's Euro 2020 qualifier, potentially a very, very crucial one from the Republic of Ireland's point of view here against Switzerland. Mick McCarthy's press conference, along with Seamus Coleman, is done. A few hints dropped here and there, Dan McDonnell.
Yeah, a few hints dropped without being maybe hugely specific. It was sort of in spiky enough form today, Mick, or certainly spiky enough form with the press side of things, but there was probably stuff you could read into it. I think it's fairly likely now Aaron Connolly is going to start. Didn't quite say it definitively, but he hasn't ruled it out definitively either. He's removed the possibility that it could be deemed as a risk now, whereas I think obviously he seemed adamant that Georgia wasn't a place for debutants, and he's not a debutant now. In terms of this match, and I think the pressure, as someone pointed out, would be probably more of a risk not to play him now. Maybe in terms of how that could be received, and just simply the attributes that he possesses that actually could be suited to this game. So, he did mention that in Tbilisi on Saturday to the papers as well too, that he was quite strong about it, but was also very strong in that he would need some support, that he couldn't be isolated as a one up front, like maybe Collins even was isolated for periods the other day, and like Irish number 9s have been in a lot of games over the years. So I think the debate is who plays closest to him, and I think that's definitely something that's very much up in the air.
Is that not a general thing? It's what struck me is that he was saying that Aaron Connolly will probably need a support man, Steve-O, that he'll probably need somebody to play off him, whether it's another midfielder, whether that's a James Collins, remains to be seen. But as Dan mentioned there, being alone, being isolated up front is not a trait that would have been solely put down to Aaron Connolly in an Ireland team. I mean, this has happened to strikers since time immemorial. We saw it with Shane Long numerous times. We've seen it with David McGoldrick in recent games. We saw it most definitely with James Collins in Tbilisi. Why change now?
Yeah, I don't know. There just seems to be a real lack of cohesion
in the game in Tbilisi. There was no, the team didn't really seem to move as one unit. There was these gaps. Again, like, you have to go back to, I know, Dan, you wrote about it in The Independent, about just the three midfielders, Harahan, Whelan and Hendrick, and they're just, none of those three players really got on the ball and provided something for James Collins to work with. I don't think James Collins played very well, but I would say that I thought the midfield didn't really give him that kind of support that he needs and give him the balls that he needs to kind of try and hold up and bring other players into play. The other interesting thing I think about Connolly as well, I kind of, just from seeing him play for the under-21s, and we saw him again as well for Brighton coming in off that left side, I just thought it was interesting as well to see how the Swiss are using Lichtsteiner on the right-hand side, 35 years of age. Like, surely Connolly could do some damage on that left side against Lichtsteiner.
Yeah, it's just there's some suggestion here he might be dropped. Okay. Lichtsteiner, that's the one thing. Yeah. And I don't know, that seems to be their debate, whether I think it's Mbolo comes back in, or Mbobu, he comes back in, or Lichtsteiner. That's actually the debate. It's an interesting point. It would be something you would think that could be exploited in that event. But you would think McLean probably plays. I mean, I watched Stephen Hunt on Saturday. He was in with Nathan and Shane Keegan. I watched it back after. I thought he spoke well about the unit. And I think with the midfield three that Steve-O references that. So, and I think Stephen, even how he mentioned it himself, he was being critical of himself that even as a winger he sometimes operated really in straight lines, and he was very direct, and sometimes like McLean wasn't necessarily given a great option in terms of the support for the three, and just the unit was just a bit all over the place actually. And I think there's an argument actually that McLean, for all the grief that McLean has been getting, and I understand why he's getting the grief, and he had a particularly poor game on Saturday. I mean, Ireland wouldn't have got a point last month if it wasn't for McLean sort of manhandling the Swiss player and getting the cross into the area. But I sort of wonder, is there ever a temptation to McLean, his first incarnation as an Ireland player was that impact sub off the bench with 20 minutes to go, and I wonder, is there a temptation to try that and see if you could go for maybe a different starting option that could make the unit a bit more compact? And that's the debate. Like, the two wingers the other day struggled. I think the three didn't play well, and it was just all over the shop. And I think like when Switzerland played Ireland last month, their movement was way superior. It wasn't just and they're also a physically strong team as well, so they've got a lot going for them. And I just think Ireland can't have the big gaps that have opened up at times in games. And I wonder, do they have to look at personnel just to manage that? So I think there's a lot to consider. I think it's worth mentioning as well that on that sort of Connolly debate, before maybe we move off at that, Mick did make a big point of when Scott Hogan came on. I don't think Hogan's going to play, but just what he offered in the Switzerland game, that he came on and actually ran the channels a bit and pulled their back three out of position. So again, you're thinking, right, well, is he looking at players that have those attributes? And if Connolly plays, who would the one behind be? Could it be Robinson, or could it just be Alan Brown? What type of player does he go for? But I think definitely unsettling that back three, it has to be a big part of the plan, because Fabian Schär got the goal in Dublin, as people will remember. He was just strolling forward with the ball. He was able to sort of march forward under no real pressure centrally. So I think there's a lot to consider in terms of how he the packing of the middle is something that might actually happen here, and you wonder, would the wingers be vulnerable to some degree in terms of how there's the plan.
We saw that as well when Denmark were in Dublin the last time, and the likes of Shuna, Delaney, just to seem to get that spot. I remember marking that time at the Aviva Stadium, just looking down and seeing the amount of space that those two players had coming into the Irish half, and there was maybe about 15-20 yards of space that they could come into, and as you say, you need to block that up. I think the Robinson one is interesting as well, because myself and Richie were talking the way up to the press conference today, and just saying that Robinson is a left winger who was turned into a striker, and he just looked really frustrated, didn't he, the other day? And I remember watching the game for Sheffield United against Liverpool recently, and again, when he's pulling out, even though he's playing as a central striker, he pulls off to the left hand side when he gets that chance. So maybe that's the plan, to maybe play him in behind a striker might be a better option.
Possibly, yeah. I think that could be. I don't think Robinson it's a cert that he would be dropped, although I think he's pretty vulnerable. He hasn't played well in the last two games, and he's been the first player taken off in both of them. So and I just have a feeling that Collins won't play if Connolly does. So they're the changes that you look at. Obviously Stevens will come in for Doherty as well. You kind of wonder at another time, would this be the type of game where Doherty actually on the right side of midfield wouldn't be crazy? But I'm sort of contradicting myself in terms of saying, like, you know, in terms, do you actually need to sacrifice some width to cope with that Swiss team?
That's what I'm just going to ask. So, in pure terms, are we looking at a diamond in behind, if presuming Aaron Connolly starts up front?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like the diamond is probably another option as well. Like he did also mention Alan Judge, should be referenced on Saturday, unprompted, as someone that could be the one in behind. So then you know you're in every scenario you're looking at probably a congested midfield. Like, is it just a case that Hendrick is actually just pushed out right? You know, the Hendrick actually operates on the right side, and as he did. I mean, when Alan Brown came in, that was the change. So I think it just needs to be something that's clever. Like I mean, this is the tone of the piece that I'm doing. Like my preview piece tomorrow is just along the lines of, like, we always talk about sort of old school Irish brawn and fighting spirit, right? And I know that Switzerland have made mistakes in this group, and there's probably mental questions you have to ask about a team that's conceded that many late goals. But in terms of actually physical strength, like, they're big, athletic, quick team. Like, that was the one thing that struck me in Dublin. They just looked like they're on a different level. Yeah. So it's not just a case of you can go out there and give it a go and put it up to them. They don't like it up them type stuff. You know, like, they're not that type of team. Like, there needs to be a smarter strategy. So we're just, you know, throwing around different suggestions here. I'd like to think none of us get it right, and there is a plan there that will surprise them, because I just think it's not like Wales 2 years ago, where I think there was that sense of it was win and ugly, and like there was some combative moments in that game, and Joe Allen was taken out of it and stuff. I think, like, Switzerland are able to withstand a lot of that. We actually just have to be a lot smarter, and in terms of the movement and attack and play, to try and, you know, pick them apart, because otherwise I think they're very well capable of just dominating Ireland in every area.
On that, is there enough prior evidence to suggest, I'll put this to you first, Steve, is there enough evidence to suggest on prior Ireland performances that there is that element of guile there? Now, Connolly to some degree would be the unknown quantity in that, because we haven't actually seen him and how he would work within an Ireland game plan from the off. But there are those that suggest, without wanting to talk about the doomsayers that Mick talks about, you know, that those that suggest that we don't have another gear in terms of the mental aspect of the game and how we can approach it in a more cerebral kind of way.
It was funny when you put that question about the Schmeichel comments.
Don't mention that. Again, you look.
When you put that to Mick and to Seamus, it was actually interesting to watch Seamus Coleman's reaction.
Yeah.
He looked visibly angry about it, as much as he might give away, but just his expression really changed. And I just wonder, maybe, Richie, you've maybe helped to motivate the team in a certain way.
I'm taking credit for it.
I would imagine Seamus Coleman might be kind of thinking he'll go back to the players now and say, have you heard about what this Schmeichel fella has said? Now, I don't know as well, I kind of got the impression throughout the press conference that Mick had actually heard about it, that he did kind of make out to you that he hadn't heard the comments, but he made a few references during the press conference that we are now basically playing the best team in the group. He kept referring to the Swiss as the best team in the group.
I think we'd rather be playing Denmark tomorrow to channel that anger properly, though. This is like, we're not really angry at you, but we're just angry. Because we just need to hurt somebody. You know, like, I think for the Denmark game, you know, there is that spice that is definitely there. It's probably there already, but it's sort of, I know what you're saying, but it's sort of like, yeah, but, you know, we need to channel it towards, you know, this is not the game where that's kind of possibly going to be channeled, but that could be your team talk for next month, sort of, pretty much. You know?
I just think as well, like, and, you know, even because, and you said to it about Mick being spiky during the press conference, he definitely was. I just kind of got the feeling, because he said as well at the end of the press conference that he wasn't aware of all this kind of negativity around the team, like that he was getting all these text messages saying, oh, you know, F the begrudgers and all this kind of stuff. And I just wonder as well that, you know, if this again, like, is something, I think even one of our colleagues suggested to Mick that, you know, this is definitely something you guys can harness and use this kind of talk of negativity, because they you know, at the end Mick just kind of felt like, you know, we've actually got a really good chance of qualifying here. Like, we win tomorrow, we're through. If we don't win tomorrow, we still got a chance. We play against Denmark, and again we could be coming against a Denmark team that are already qualified. So I just feel that, I think he's just a bit annoyed about the fact that there is that kind of negativity around the team.
Dan, why aren't you excited? Why isn't the Irish Independent Sports section a 12-page extravaganza on how great the Republic of Ireland team is and what a leader and what a tactician Mick McCarthy is. I'm putting all of this squarely at the feet of the written press.
You're putting this on. It's all on the written press. It's all on the.
What's broadcast media? Sound.
Doing some amazingly good cheerleading, Grant Tbilisi, and in particular, like, it was just, that flag you wore into the press conference. People didn't see it because you were the other side of the camera. So it was more low key, But I mean, he does have a point about the lack of excitement that exists because it is 90 minutes from it. It's probably, I think, the belief has been drained away. Like, the group, my slight fear is that the group is just. Not dissimilar to the last World Cup campaign where Ireland got into a great position, and by the end of it they were still in it. They still had a playoff to get to the bloody thing, but there was that sense across the year that there was a dip.
That's a very McCarthy thing, because he spoke before about his previous campaigns as an Ireland manager, informing his calmness, as he put it, and he didn't seem too calm throughout the press conference. But that was a very McCarthy thing, where you start off like a house on fire, and then by the end you're like, do you know what, playoff would be class.
Yeah, like I just don't think you can get away from the fact that Georgia was such a missed opportunity, and he's still like, well, this point it's still a good point. It's given us the chance, and so on. No, I mean he can factually say it's correct, but it was a massive missed opportunity, because I think Switzerland are the best team in the group, and I think that this is a game where like a point would be a very, very, very good result here. I don't think anyone could be, unless it's been. You can always be critical of the horrendous display and it's a complete fluke, but I don't think anyone generally could be critical of a point in Switzerland as a result. It's just like there was an opportunity to have some breathing room to come into this game. And you can talk up Georgia, and we know. I think there is respect for Georgia. It's not as if the people who cover the team think Georgia are a bunch of plotters. Like, we know that Georgia are a very good side. They took points away to Wales in the last campaign. Not just hurting Ireland at times. So, but maybe we'll all just come to the stadium tomorrow, and you get a performance from Ireland, and then you're in the game and you're thinking, well, actually, just need to win this match, and you're there. And I think that excitement probably will come, but I think in the build-up, last month against Switzerland, Ireland weren't good at all. Like, it was a stirring rally at the end, but I thought there was
It took the concession to go.
I thought it was a backward step from even the game in Denmark, where I actually thought Ireland were put in a quite a good away display and professional display to get their point. I thought last month was a lot more worrying, and I think that sort of spilled over into Saturday, and just a bit predictable and slow, and that's why you're just hoping to see some new energy and innovation tomorrow, because it just hasn't been in the last two games.
Are we maybe though kind of overlooking the fact that the Swiss haven't really been great for the last few months? Like they went to the Nations League playoffs, they went to the Nations League playoffs and got beaten by England in the penalty shootout, third place playoff. They lost against Portugal, got hammered basically by Portugal in that semi-final. Since then, they've obviously beaten Gibraltar, that's easy enough, but they've drawn with us, beaten by Denmark. Have they maybe have the wheels come off a little bit for Switzerland? There's a lot of talk as well to their manager Petkovic that, about this concession of the late goals, this kind of thing. He seems under a little bit of pressure as well.
Yeah, no, they're under pressure, and as I said, I think their weaknesses seem to be mental. I mean, they were 3 up at home to Denmark and drew 3-3. They were 1 up in Dublin and comfortable and drew 1-1. And then on Saturday, Kasper Schmeichel was the man of the match, and they lost 1-0. But I'm just looking at their stats in terms of their performances and stuff like that. Like, in terms of attempts on goal and all the metrics, like, they appear to have been the better team in a lot of the matches. So, like, I'm not so sure that there's the weakness there that the results would suggest. Now, the flip side of that is, if they don't win the game tomorrow, they've lost all control of their qualification campaign. They're now praying that Denmark do them a favour in Dublin next month. So, they're in a weird position where this actually is their cup final. Look, I know what you're saying. Like, you look at the results, and I think with the whole Shaqiri situation, which was a bit of a scandal here, that he checked himself out. I know he wouldn't be available now with injury, and he is coming back for next month. But like, I don't think they've been as bad as their results suggest. But the positive slant on the situation is that they are under mad pressure tomorrow, and you sort of hope that actually, it's just building up on them, that these failures that they've had, that maybe they get demoralised if things aren't going their way, because they've gone off the tracks a small bit. But I don't know. I do agree with the view that they are the best side in the group. I think they were far better than Denmark on the basis of the 2 games that Ireland have played against them. But Yeah, like you hope that there is the coach's future. They might be he's there a long time, that maybe they're reaching some sort of an end of a cycle, and there is some vulnerability there that can be exploited.
The venue is actually something I was going to ask about. This isn't a sellout just yet anyway. They mentioned at the very end of the press conference that there's 22,000 tickets sold, of it 26,000, I think it's 26,000 for the game, 3,100 Irish fans. We were around town today. There isn't a real sense that apart from the Ireland fans knocking around, there's a game on tomorrow. I don't know if their lack of footballing acumen around here might play into that. Servette play in this stadium, which is why there's loads of maroon and stuff around us. They've gotten for their last 2 home games 12,000 between the 2 home games, 7,000 and 5,000. There is a sense that this mightn't be the exact place that Switzerland want to play a cup final that they viewed.
Yeah, well, that's because it was the manager himself who suggested that this is a cup final for us. Mick disagreed altogether. He said no, kind of for us we're just going in nicely relaxed. If we get a draw, we're happy enough. If we get the win, it's brilliant, we're qualified. But yeah, they're definitely I know what you mean. Like, it's like they definitely need a crowd behind them tomorrow to get themselves motivated, to get a result. I don't know, I went down and had a look around the stadium, and it's okay. It's not the best stadium I've seen. Like, it does seem.
I was here in 2008 for Turkey Czech Republic.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
The greatest game of all time.
It was amazing. But like, there's quite a substantial Turkish population in Switzerland, I mean the Turkish diaspora is everywhere around this part of Europe, but in particular, well, actually not particular Switzerland. I think there was a lot of come in from Germany or whatever. The stadium was like a Turkish home match, and it does make some noise in this place when because it's actually that one. It's not as you say. I agree with Steve. It's not a flash. It's not a stadium that wows you, but actually because it has that one tier. Effectively, when there's a bit of noise, I know what you're saying about that, but I think that time in Geneva in 2008, like I didn't even stay here. There's such a good train system that a lot of people come in and out on the day of the game. So I would still think, their home record is pretty good. Like I know they've moved around to Basel and so on. They haven't lost a home game since 2014, so they're clearly able to make themselves difficult to beat at home. I know they've just been a good side as well, so it's not as if they've been relying on like an intimidation factor. They are just a good team, and they've qualified for a lot of stuff. And as I said, like Northern Ireland, I was mentioning this, like I don't know if you remember the Northern Irish playoff against Switzerland in 2017, where they were basically robbed by a scandalous decision in Belfast, and they actually came and they had a go at them in Basel as it was, I think. So like they're not impenetrable at home, but I'd imagine that the atmosphere tomorrow should be. But I go back to the previous point, like they're under a bit of pressure, they're getting a bit of stick. It is the classic situation where, as much as you want Ireland to show a bit more intent and so on, the argument for like trying to frustrate Switzerland for a while and hope the crowd gets a bit on their back, there is an argument for that. In the situation that you're in.
I mentioned it to Jared this morning on OTB AM. There's a sense in me that Ireland will be okay playing a bit of rope-a-dope tomorrow night, that if they can keep it tight, keep it scoreless, or maybe even keep it at 1-1, if they get to that last 10 minutes, they're in an area where Switzerland, as you mentioned, have been vulnerable before. They've conceded 3 late goals to the Danes in that qualifier. They conceded 2 late goals to Portugal in the Nations League. They conceded late against Denmark again the other night. It's a habit, and it's one they seem... Even Jan Sommer was kind of hard to explain why they can't get out of it at the moment.
Yeah, I just think if it's 0-0 with 10 minutes to go, Switzerland have to win. So they are going to be going, like it's going to be an intense. So it's like, well, actually, then what have Ireland got on the break? Maybe to exploit that. And like that's the slight fear, like they're not blessed with like a huge amount of pace on the break. And
I suppose the only thing as well, like, and actually Damien Duff on TV the other day did a great analysis of, albeit a bit of a fluky kind of ball forward from Glenn Whelan for Aaron Connolly for that shot, and it just showed that maybe if we do play long balls, not necessarily to a target man, but that could be something for Connolly to run onto as well. It was also interestingly they're fully aware of Ireland's really good defensive record. It was brought up a couple of times, and I was talking to Richie earlier as well. I recently did a commentary on Benfica away to Zenit St. Petersburg, and of course Haris Seferovic plays up front for Benfica, and he was awful. He played really bad. He got hooked in the second half. And again, he looks like a striker who's out of form a little bit. He's only got a couple of goals, I think, club and country so far this season. Like, he was banging them in the Nations League. I think he got 5 and 6 games. Yeah. Looks like, he could be off form, and coming up against a really good Irish defence, surely that has to be giving you a reason for being optimistic.
Yeah, no, like I mean, as I said, they're not perfect by any means. I was interested. I was looking at their stats, like Switzerland, that again, like as much as they're technically very good, like they can be direct enough when they want. You know, they have, like, I mean, Seferovic is a big enough fella, like, and they've actually put the same amount of crosses into the box in 5 matches as Ireland have in 6. You know, they've put, I think it's 149 crosses or something. They both have. So, like, they're not afraid to sort of throw balls into the area and stuff. It's not as if they're a sort of a total football side. They can mix it up a bit, and I'd be delighted if they went down that route, because I think Ireland would be fine with that. It's more the pace and the power that they have. You know, and Bolo in Dublin, a couple of times he set off, and Ireland just looked slow. You know, and like this is what we come back to. Just can't have these big gaps. I think Gary Breen has spoken very well on off the ball numerous times about, as much as Shane Duffy's been great in this campaign, he can defend a bit deep sometimes, and that helps to build the gaps. And it's actually Whelan sometimes is left in a very unfortunate situation, not really of his doing. And you can't have these situations where Whelan is in a foot race with a ball. It's only going to end one way, you know. So I just think that Ireland need to be way more compact. And if they are in a situation with 10 minutes to go and it's like that, and you know there's going to be pressure, well, firstly, I think you want Connolly to start, so you need to have them on the pitch for the 90. Yeah. Like, who are the other options to come in? Is it Johnny Maguire? Is it, you know,
Hogan's, he played a full 90 if he does start?
Well, I don't know. Like, I think if he's your best counter attacker and the game is going that way, look, if he's completely overawed, and I don't think he will be at all, by the way, but in the worst case scenario where he's struggling, he's an obvious one to take off, because he's the kid, and they are always likely to be vulnerable. But you know, maybe I'm talking myself out of Connolly starting now. I'm thinking he might actually come on with 35 minutes to go. I decided to change my probable team. But this is the thing. Like, there's so many variables to how the game can pan out, the permutations, and I guess though you can't really plan that way, because you would be absolutely slaughtered if you wait for that scenario. And then it turns out being irrelevant because you're 2-0 down. So I think that's probably why Connolly does start. But I just think it's something to be mindful of, that whole thing of the rope-a-dope thing. But with 10 minutes to go, like, they're going to be under mad pressure here. So I'm not sure if it's just going to be easy for Ireland to suddenly start sending lads up for, you know, throw-ins and corners and to go for it. I think Ireland at that stage would be still happy enough with the point. I don't know if they would fully go balls out in that scenario and hope you get a chance to nick it.
Dan, you've deadlines to file, and before they turn the lights out on us here in the corridor, I'm looking at the light. Somebody's going to give out to me about this video. But before we let you go, we'll get a prediction off you.
Just to be clear, we actually are in the stadium. It doesn't look like we could be anywhere now. I think Switzerland might win tomorrow. Yeah, I've always had that feeling about this game, so I'm not gonna change it on the basis of, like, you know. And in fact, I think it's important to play up to the negative role of the written press to balance out the prediction of victory that I've already heard you give this morning. And Steve will doubtless do the same now. So I'm going to balance it out, and afterwards you can say, well, listen, you know, broadcast media such as ourselves, we always believed, you know. So no, I've had a bad feeling about this game. I think Switzerland are due a win, so I think we might be on the wrong end of it.
Dan McDonnell from Irish Independent, we are fully behind our boys. We score on those who aren't. Let's hear a bit of Mick McCarthy in the press conference earlier on this evening.
Mick, down here, are you aware of Peter Schmeichel's comments to Jan Sommer after the Denmark-Switzerland game, where he said Ireland aren't very good, and what do you make of them?
Well, I'm aware of them now.
His comments were, I've seen Ireland play and they are so bad. Switzerland can take a lot of positives from their performance in Copenhagen. They have some really talented players. If they play like that against Ireland, the win will come.
That's very kind of him.
Anything further to add?
There are so many people who have opinions on me and my team and my players. I'm not bothered, and I certainly don't respond to them.
Just on the midfield, given Glenn Whelan's, for want of a better term, advancing years, I'm just wondering if 2 games in the space of 4 days are still within his wheelhouse at the moment.
I think if you ask that question directly to him, he might punch you on the nose, to be quite honest. I'm being amazed. He's been remarkable, and I think he's a model pro. He's a really good athlete. He looks after himself, and if he plays tomorrow, there will not be a problem.
Did Matt Doherty do enough on the left on Saturday to push his way into your thinking ahead of Enda Stevens coming back from suspension?
I think you get the team sheets an hour and a half before kick-off, do you? Or maybe earlier for you guys, or I don't know. You'll find out tomorrow.
Okay. Cheers, Mick.
Pleasure.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the greatest football partnership since Shearer and Owen.
News Talk Breakfast.
Someone else texted in earlier, you might remember Kieran, another listener, who had statistics, I suppose, backing up Joe Schmidt's success rate, and he joins us now on the line. Given that he's so successful, should we be playing a more exciting brand of rugby?
Well, listen, guys, I mean, I grew up in the 80s, and I would have given anything for a win. I watch boring rugby all day with Joe winning, and I think it's typical Irish begrudgery. We don't get behind successful teams.
News Talk Breakfast with Shane Coleman and Kieran Cuddihy.
In association with AIR.
Back tomorrow from 7 on News Talk.
Stow your luggage in the overhead. Stretch out and get comfortable. Turn on your laptop. Get connected to free Wi-Fi. Use your phone. Or switch off. Recharge. Catch up on me time. Have a chat. Grab a drink. Order a meal. Walk around. Breathe. Live. Welcome aboard this Enterprise service to Belfast. Life takes the train, so tick Enterprise. Book now on irishrail.ie.
You're a spy. You work for the British government.
No, I work for the British people.
Based on the untold true story.
Someone has betrayed their country. The government is lying.
Official Secrets is thrilling, a powerful and vital film.
Biggest demonstration in human history. The war is illegal.
My motive was to stop a war and save lives.
Keira Knightley, Matt Smith and Ralph Fiennes.
Do you want to risk it all?
I have to tell the truth.
Official Secrets in cinemas Friday, rated 15A.
Dermot grabs the folder from his locker and spins towards the door in one swift movement. Tara, coffee in hand, approaches the junction of the two corridors. As Dermot rushes around the blind turn, they realise it's too late.
Ah! Sorry.
This crash resulted in one missed lecture, one ruined hoodie, and one slightly burned hand. If Dermot and Tara were drivers, the result could be infinitely worse. Support National Slow Down Day running October 18th to 19th, 7am to 7am. Brought to you by An Garda Síochána and the Road Safety Authority.
Do you have a TV licence? Inspectors are calling to unlicensed homes and businesses. If you don't, that can mean prosecution and a fine of up to €1,000. It's the law, so get yours at tvlicence.ie or at any post office. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Don't live your life on hold. Get a quote now at itsforwomen.ie and see why we're trusted by over 130,000 women in Ireland.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
I've got everything in front of me, so I think I have it. It took me a while to get there.
Okay.
A few of the lads in there earlier on, but I think I've got it. Yeah. The league split up into 4 different leagues. League A, B, C and D. If you win a group, you automatically get into a playoff for Euro 2020 by winning a group.
What?
Yeah. So if you win your group, so if we had, say, Wales and Northern Ireland, we then, I think it comes down to, so if we win League B,
yeah,
and now not necessarily B, if say you win all the games, potentially that gives you the chance you've topped that group. That's how it would work.
So basically the top 4 teams in each league, so the one from each group, will go forward to the playoffs, assuming they haven't qualified for Euro 2020 via their actual qualifying group.
But regardless of anything, Joe,
not like you can break water.
At the end of it, if you top your league, you go into you'll hit then the playoff system. The overall to go to win the overall winner, which will be League A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
If then, as I said before, if you win that league, you automatically then qualify. Hit the playoff for the Euros. That's what you get.
When you say winning the league, what do you mean?
You win the League B.
You get one from pot 1, one from pot 2, pot 3, and it's a 3-team group, and you play them each home and away, and you got 4 games, and then if we win our league, we get promoted to League A.
I don't understand. So if we win our little group with the other 2 teams, let's say it's
no, not necessarily that. If you win your league,
I was going to say. So if we win our league, say we've Northern Ireland and Wales, and we come out of that group.
Say you win all 4 games. That's the way that you can maybe explain it a little bit. But if you win all 4 games, you give yourself a great chance of winning the league, because it's going to come down to goal difference and everything will probably.
So what do you have to do to win your league? I get we have a little group within a league. What do you have to do to win the league? To win League B? You don't know.
Kill me there.
No, that's fine. You don't know.
Yeah, you've killed me there.
No,
Yeah,
fine.
let's not go into that.
You screwed up.
You're very welcome back. Before the break, we heard from Steve-O, Dan McDonnell and Mick McCarthy. In a second, we'll be hearing from Richie and Steve-O. But first, here's Switzerland's manager Vladimir Petkovic talking about Peter Schmeichel's attempts to stir up trouble ahead of the game.
Peter Schmeichel told the goalkeeper Jan Sommer in Denmark not to worry about tomorrow because Ireland is such a bad team. What does the keeper think? What does the coach think about that?
Well, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. What can I say about that? I saw Ireland when they played in Denmark. They weren't that bad at all. It's down to how you find the team for your own opinion. What is important tomorrow is these little decisions that we make, and they actually decide games, little intricacies. We know how Ireland will come towards us, and so we've got to respond with more power and then give our best as we always do.
Vladimir Petkovic there, who mentioned on a couple of occasions during the course of his press conference that tomorrow is a cup final from the Swiss perspective.
Yeah, I did say to Dan, by the way, Richie, earlier about Seamus Coleman's reaction. Did you, because you were asking the question, I don't know, did you kind of...
I had to maintain eye contact with Mick. It's like that bit in school when you ask a question to the teacher, whereby we used to have a geography teacher, this is going to kill loads of time, we used to have a geography teacher that would give the most long-winded answers. So it became a competition within the class to see who could get the longest answer out of them. So I remember, this is in first year geography, asking, "Sir, where does wind start?" Right? And all I heard was from my left a beep from one of the lads setting his timer, and he went off for, the class was 40 minutes. Mr. Morgan did, I think, about 25 minutes. All I remember is he started off with, "Now, you know that hot air rises." And all I did for the rest of it, without listening to him, was just concentrate and make eye contact and make sure I got the longest answer. So that's what I did with Mick. I made sure that I was going to get an answer out of him by maintaining contact, even with my new specs.
He didn't really, he didn't make too much of it though, the Schmeichel stuff, did he? Mick, he kind of didn't, he gave a pretty short shrift. But sorry, what was the original question we were talking about again?
Cup final,
yeah, like, listen, Mick isn't going to tell us, he's not going to give us any insight into what kind of mental state he wants to get the players into before the game. I think he will. I think he will say to them, "Look, lads, this is a massive opportunity for us. We can qualify tonight. We're out here, beat these Swiss fellas, and we can get through." He's not going to tell us that though. He's not going to come out and say that to us. Like, it is such a big opportunity, and I was fuming, Richie, after that Georgia match. Now, you were there, I'm watching at home on TV. I was fuming after, because I thought Mick performed badly, I thought the players performed badly, I thought we showed a real lack of, just a willingness to attack and get into the Georgian players' faces. But I think as the week has kind of, the last couple of days have kind of gone on, the more I think about it, I'm kind of going, well, this is a really good opportunity, isn't it? Yeah, like I am feeling a bit more positive.
Yes.
It's like, why can't we go out there and beat the Swiss? They are a good side and they are the best team in the group, but they're not, you know what I mean? It's not Holland, it's not England, it's not, I'm thinking of all the top teams around Europe at the moment, Germany, like, it's none of those. It's Switzerland. Like, they're a good side, but they're not a great side, Richie.
Who said that?
But yeah, so, like, are you not feeling positive?
Do you know what I am? From the point of view that Connolly is more than likely going to come in. We learned that much from Mick's press conference. There can't be as bad a performance 2 games in a row. I just don't believe it. And there is that X factor that shouldn't be there. But let's face it, from an Irish perspective, is that against the quote-unquote bigger sides or better sides in our group, or the sides that are seated above us, we do tend to raise our games. So with those factors combined, I have something in the back of my head, and you know me, I'm a pessimistic so-and-so at the best of times. I just have this slight sneaking suspicion that we will get at least a point out here, and I'm actually quietly confident that a win might come to pass.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, it was interesting to note that Alan Brown, when he spoke to the media last week ahead of the Georgia game, he was talking about the fact that they had, it was Alan Brown, I'm certain, we talked to some of the players last week. Anyway, it was one of the lads that spoke to us last week, and they were talking about they were getting ready for a 3 o'clock kickoff. They had the Brighton-Tottenham game on in the dressing room as they were getting ready for this game. So they're all watching Aaron Connolly, and he was just saying about how brilliant this was. Now, if you're an Irish player, obviously somebody's going to miss their starting place if Connolly does come in. Yeah. If you're that player, you're going to be a little bit annoyed, a little bit pissed off. But the other 10 players, they're going to be thinking, we've got possibly one of the hottest prospects in the Premier League who absolutely destroyed the Champions League finalists last weekend. you know, there's a real chance he could do something tonight. And that in turn is going to motivate the rest of the team. It's going to give them a bit of belief and a bit of self-confidence.
You look at someone like Glenn Whelan, and the Irish press officer said that he is looking for me after my comment in the press conference that he mightn't be out for 2 games in a row.
Punch you in the nose, I think he said.
Punch me in the nose. And that's, do you know what, I've been spoiling for a fight since I got here. It's a neutral country, let's bring some animosity to it. But when I keep thinking of that Whelan somewhat hopeful ball over the top onto Connolly on Saturday afternoon, I'm kind of thinking that a midfielder's eyes light up like that, because that wasn't an outlet that James Collins was offering. It's not necessarily an outlet that David McGoldrick, for all his positives, had been offering up until Saturday. So I'm thinking that I'm with you. The midfield might be buoyed by the fact that there is somebody up there who can receive what they do, and let's hope, touch wood and all that kind of stuff, that they actually do manage to create more than they did on Saturday, because he is a superb outball for them.
He absolutely is, and I'm kind of thinking, you know, who marks him for the Swiss? And we know Fabian Schär is a pretty good defender for Newcastle. I'm not sure if he's the most pacey defender, and can he get turned quickly, because the Georgian defenders certainly were suffering. I know Dan spoke earlier about the Swiss. There's a bit of a debate going on if Lichtsteiner plays or not. You know, if you're the Swiss manager and you're kind of looking at this Irish team and thinking, well, they do have a bit of pace down the left. You know, McLean, for all his, you know, the negative talk about him after the game, and I know Dan made some good points about him not being, he was maybe a little bit scuppered by the players that were around him. But I wonder, will they play Lichtsteiner? Maybe they're kind of thinking he doesn't have that pace and that, you know, the ability to turn quickly if Ireland do counter quickly.
The equation is pretty simple. 3 points tomorrow night, and the Republic of Ireland are playing on home soil in Euro 2020. Live commentary of the Group D qualifier from here in the Stade de Genève is coming live from Stephen Doyle to my right here tomorrow, and Dan McDonnell is going to join us pre-match as well. I'm going to be presenting the whole kit and caboodle from up in the stand. They're actually going to let us out into the stadium tomorrow, can you believe? But until then, it's very best of luck to the Republic of Ireland tomorrow night, and good night.
The Home Show.
This week on The Home Show, high-tech homes controlling your alarm, heating, locks, gates and lights, all from an app. I'll be taking a look at technology that can make your home smarter. Arrears and repossessions, I'll be joined by personal insolvency practitioner Claire Kelly, who'll guide us through the maze of indebtedness. And of course, Roisin Murphy, our resident design expert, will be answering some of your questions, talking about the budget and of course bringing us in our objective design.
The Home Show with Sinead Ryan on News Talk.
Download and subscribe to the podcast now at newstalk.com and on the News Talk app.
This Irish success story is brought to you by Guaranteed Irish.
Did you know that all of the 34 million pots of Sudocrem sold in over 50 countries worldwide are manufactured by an Irish pharmaceutical company in Baldoyle, trusted by mums